From Super League to Olympic distance to age group world records to Kona. Go longer with the right fuel at the right time with SFuels.
This is a phenomenal bike ride, and I can tell you he's so casual. This is his first time he's ever biked the full 112 miles here in Hawaii. He's never been up to the turn in Harvey. He's certainly been up there today. Doesn't he look...
It's Aloha Monday, gonna swim, bike, and run day. Chee! And it's breakfast with Bob.
Let's hear it for Poncho Man.
Yeah, boy.
Thank you, buddy. 11th year. Breakfast with Bob from beautiful Huggos on the Rocks. My name is Bob Babbitt. We're brought to you by Master Spas, SFuels Go Longer, HOKA Let's Fly, Form Smart Swim Goggles, Quintanaroo, Zoot, the original triathlon brand, and our Challenged Athletes Foundation. One of the most versatile endurance athletes on the planet. He was third at St. George at the Ironman World Championship. Please give it up for Mr. Braden Currie. How you doing, Braden?
Oh, we're good, mate. It's good to be back. Weather's looking fine as always.
Yes.
And yeah, we're just counting down the days.
And you've been in Maui for how long?
I had a 5-week training block in Maui. So yeah, it's good to acclimatise, get used to the conditions, and I really enjoy it there.
Was it hard not to go to U.S. Open, $1 million prize purse? It's easy to get distracted now because what PTO is doing is they're putting some big dollars out there.
Yeah, I think as professional athletes, we're all competitors, so it's pretty hard to turn down a good opportunity to compete. And yeah, we're trying to make money in the sport as well. So when there's options out there to make money, it's pretty hard to turn them down. But
right.
yeah, I think for me, just where I was going, it just spent a lot of time traveling back and forward, and it was easier just to stay in one place and focus on this.
When I look at the St. George splits, a 47-minute swim, 4:16 by 2:47 marathon, 7:54 on a brutal course with 7,000 feet of climbing, you'd think, okay, this guy's running away with the win. And you were leading for a big chunk of that day. Talk to a little bit about just the last part of the marathon.
Yeah, I mean, exactly that. I thought things were looking pretty good for me. My run's normally my strongest sort of leg on the in the Ironman, so when I went out on the run, I thought, as long as I ran close to a 2:40, then I would have it in the bag, and I sort of held similar paces, and before I know it, Christian had caught me up, so he was absolutely flying, and yeah, I guess I held on for dear life after that, but yeah, it was a bit of a sprint finish with Lionel, and that one was a bit painful, but we'll get over that.
But you're also a guy, you're a sports guy. You're having a sprint finish like that, you don't want to come out in the short end of it, but it's pretty cool.
It's very cool. Yeah, it definitely made the last part of the run pretty exciting, and not that I could sprint really. It was more like a walk, jog kind of sprint finish. It was still pretty exciting racing.
So last time, 7th here in 2019, and I mean I look at the splits are very much like what you did in St. George was fast, obviously a lot faster on the bike. How have you changed over the last few years?
Yeah, I just think general progression in a lot of ways. Yeah, I think I was pretty new to the sport when I raced here first, and second. It's only been 2 races before this, so yeah, I was very new to the sport, and I think in that last sort of 5 years, I've just been able to progress on my biking and my marathon run.
So I remember your swimming is so good, and you attribute that a lot to your work as kayaking, right? In terms of plan placement, things like that, you learn a lot from that.
Yeah, I did. I think I took a lot away from my kayaking, like the fluidity and catch and pull and all that, and also like the core and lats work that you get from kayaking seemed to cross over really well to my swim. So it took a couple of years of hard work, but yeah, I managed to bring it up to the front group, and now I'm relatively consistent in that front group.
You're always in that front group, and speaking of the front group, a lot of times there's 1 or 2 guys in the front group. This race, and I think St. George was very similar, there's going to be a lot of guys who are in that front group who also are great cyclists.
Absolutely, yeah. I think this group could even be
Bigger.
double maybe the size of St. George, if and that's if it doesn't splinter as well. So yeah, it'll be a pretty big group and a pretty strong group really. So I guess it comes down to how they want to work.
And in St. George, you guys worked so well together. It was a group of 5 or so, and just everybody was honest. Everybody was taking their legal pull. But the whole idea was, we got the Christians back there. We got other guys. And was it a conscious effort from the group going, hey, let's get it down to 5, and then one of us is going to win this thing?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, everyone was looking at each other going, well, I'd rather have a running race with the 5 of us than I would with, 20 other guys coming into this race. So, yeah, it was pretty much that.
And in terms of this course, you've done well here. How does this course compare to what you just did in St. George?
Yeah, I mean, I've had some good races, here. But, yeah, I mean, just the heat is probably the biggest challenge here, isn't it? So it's a pretty simple one. If you can tolerate and keep pace to be able to absorb the heat and control your race a little bit, then you should have a pretty good race out there.
There's very few people who are here who have the background you have, coming from Xterra, where you did really, really well, and then coast to coast across the South Island, 240K running, cycling, kayaking, and you won that 4 times, right, or more. Has it been more since? Is it 5 now, or is it still 4?
No, I don't actually know. I won it earlier this year because Ironman New Zealand was called off, so I went back and did it again. Yeah, I don't know whether there was 4 or 5, but somewhere there.
And what is it about that event that suits you so well? Because it is so different than something like this. This is road, and it's volcanic. And then what you're doing there is there's so much water involved. There's so many different skills.
Yeah, I think that's the good thing of growing up in New Zealand as a Kiwi. Like, it was since, a young age we were in the outdoors in the mountains. We got used to hiking and running in riverbeds and over mountains and using whatever devices we can to float back down. So we learn a lot of skills in that. But yeah, the race is completely different to racing here, and I'll be quite happy if they put in a good 40K off-road trail run. I'd feel pretty comfortable that I could take this race out.
They can add that on.
I'll be quite happy. Maybe a run through the lava fields and up the volcano and back will be good.
So I don't think we've had a New Zealand guy win this race, right?
No, Cam Brown came very close.
Second.
And what a man he is. So, it'd be cool to stand on the top step.
And represent New Zealand, be the first guy. We obviously had Aaron Baker win here. That would be part of a pretty legendary group. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, it'd be an amazing achievement, really. And, something that's been a long time coming. I think New Zealand's had a strong contingency of incredible athletes over the years. And, it was always a shame that Brownie didn't quite win one. But, hopefully we can change that.
It's to me, it's always been so tough because you're racing Ironman New Zealand back in March, and then to try to peak for that, which means you're training over your summer or our winter. Then I always felt with Cam it was so difficult because then he's got to peak multiple times and come here in October ready to win this race after winning 100 of them, 100 Ironman New Zealands in March. Is it difficult because your season starts so early?
Two sides to it. As a professional, when you want to race year in, year out, it becomes a very long career because we don't have big off seasons. But the other side is that you carry your fitness through because you get the opportunity to race all summer. Well, our summer, which is your winter. And
right.
But it does make for a big season. We finish here, we go home, have maybe a week or two and start training for the races through Christmas, New Year and Ironman New Zealand in March and carry on into the American season after that.
So you, Matt Kerr, Daniela Reef, all training in Maui, and Brent McMahon back in the day. What is it about Maui?
It's a beautiful island. It's an amazing place. It's got all the facilities you need to train well there, and a few more options than Kona, diversity-wise, training-wise.
Right.
Plus, it was great this year. There was only 3 of us really on the island, so we kind of had the place to ourselves.
When did you feel that you could potentially win the Ironman World Championship? Because obviously you're doing coast to coast, you're doing all sorts of different type of events, Xterra. When did you put the focus on, okay, this is an incredibly important event, I want to win this?
I think after my first one that I did here, which was a bit of a disaster.
You were 30-something or
30-something. The night before, I stood on a sea urchin and got a bunch of splines up in my foot. Oh. And then during the race, I took a penalty that wasn't actually a penalty. It was a time split to the person behind me. So there was a 5-minute stand down. And then I got a flat tire and then I finished up. So I had a bit of a desire after that one to come back and have a better race, make it a bit smoother and cleaner and see what I could do.
And when you come here in 18,
yeah.
30th was 17, then 18, you go from 30th to 5th.
Exactly, yeah. So things smoothed up a little bit, but again, that race, I I didn't have the run that I felt I could have had, so
Yeah.
I really faded in the back half of the marathon, and that's what sort of drove me to come back again.
I mean, when you were doing coast to coast, did this even enter your mind of doing Ironman World Championship? Because it's just so
no,
different.
not at all. I mean, I didn't even know of Ironman really. I think the first Ironman I've ever watched was only 6 years ago. I think Sebi went to the front and
Yes.
took off with it, and that kind of, I was like, that's what Ironman World Champs is. So when we were growing up, it definitely wasn't a big sport in New Zealand, and it's just something that's kind of evolved for me.
Did you do much, because adventure racing, there's a lot of great Kiwis who were involved with adventure racing back in the day. Were you involved with that as well?
Yeah, so I was probably on the back end of the really strong, we would say expedition adventure racing.
Yes.
So non-stop, 5-9 days, minimal sleep, maybe an hour a night if you're lucky.
No
Ridiculous
mints on the
Ks,
pillow or anything like that?
nothing, no treats. So I was on the back end of that. I did one of them. Lasted 3 days. We pulled out, and then I did a lot of what we called like adventure stage racing.
Yes.
So in China, a lot.
Oh, mile 7.
Yeah, mile 7, things like that. So you got sleep at night, but you raced for 5 days continuous kind of thing. And that was fantastic racing. It was a great way to get into the sport and learn a lot of skills. Got to go to some pretty epic places.
You've got
travel
to
with some good
navigate,
mates.
too.
Got a bit of navigation in there, yep, but also just a lot of skills, a lot of different sports.
I love it. Hey, Braden, have a great race. I'd love to see you win this thing. That would be so cool. I know how hard you've worked being in Maui for 5 weeks and, walking away from other big prize money races. The commitment is there, and now it's just execution.
Yeah, thanks, mate. We'll give it all we can.
Hopefully we'll chat on Sunday at our championship edition again.
Bring it on.
All right. Braden Currie, everybody. Poncho Man.
Monday, gonna swim, bike, and run all day. What? Cause it's breakfast with Bob.